The ghost people, severely mutated humans found lurking in the cloud at the Sierra Madre, often heard and sometimes seen roaming the villa streets, bearing the weight of their cumbersome suits, placing traps, and waiting to attack anyone desperate enough to enter their ruined villa in search of a second chance to begin again. But where did these creatures come from? Who are the people wearing these unusual suits? And why do they still inhabit this dreadful place? To thank for these abominations, we have Frederick Sinclair. Frederick was a wealthy businessman with an unhealthy obsession for Vera Keyes, a Hollywood actress known for her impeccable beauty, and Frederick wanted to gift her something that would keep her safe during the inevitable war. A shelter built at the heart of his new casino, the Sierra Madre. So in exchange for access to advanced technologies, Sinclair signed a Faustian pact with the executives at Big Mountain, allowing the scientists to use his casino as a giant testing ground, and this also extended to the villa itself. One of these experiments, entirely unknown to the construction workers building the villa, was the use of an untried chemical. That chemical turned out to be a self-replicating airborne toxin, poisonous to living beings. It was red in color, burned the lungs, and was even absorbed through the skin. Its effects were first discovered by the construction workers when the cheap ventilation system at the Puesta del Sol switching station malfunctioned. The workers that repaired the system came into contact with the chemical, and as a result, they were sent to the villa's clinic with shortness of breath and their skin stained a dark red. Now this incident would usually be investigated and the cause of their ailments taken care of to ensure no more workers would be affected. However, Mr. Yesterday, the manager in charge of the villa's construction, wasn't a good man. While Sinclair was focused on the casino and the shelter within, Mr. Yesterday was building the worst possible villa he could get away with. By purchasing the cheapest materials, he was saving Sinclair money, but that money was being stored into his own personal account, and an incident where 3 workers were injured would lead to an investigation, and that investigation would likely lead to Sinclair learning about Mr. Yesterday's true intentions. So Mr. Yesterday buried the entire thing, and the workers went back to work. But there was someone who wanted to learn more about what was really going on, and that was the clinic's physician, who over time watched as his clinic quickly filled with more and more workers, all sharing the same disorders, that is, red skin and burning lungs. So, the physician, unable to investigate the cause himself, had the foreman take a look around on his behalf. It wasn't long after that, the foreman had a nasty fall from one of the platforms and was found with a broken neck, which didn't kill him, but bleeding out before anyone found him did. And while his death was incredibly suspicious, as he wasn't even on shift at the time and had no reason to be down there in the first place, the entire thing was chalked up to bad luck, an innocent accident that could have happened to anyone. And so Mr. Yesterday's secret remained a secret. The workers continued falling ill, and the toxin replicated at breakneck speeds. Until one day, the entire underground network of service tunnels were completely covered with the mysterious toxin, and no matter how many workers they sent down there to repair the ventilation system, it couldn't be done. Only then did Sinclair learn about the toxin. But his mind was elsewhere, and instead of trying to fix the problem, he reached out to the executives at Big Mountain in the hopes of receiving a quick and easy solution. And their answer to the toxin, which they were responsible for, was a new type of suit they had been working on, and without giving it any thought, Sinclair accepted the new suits. But in doing so, he allowed the scientists to follow up their initial experiment with another. But these strange and terrifying hazmat suits and matching dark light cowl weren't all that useful. They made the wearer sluggish, the respirators prevented speech, meaning they had to use sign language to communicate, and once it was put on, you needed the help from someone else to take it back off. Even the scientists were afraid of wearing these things, But the most tragic thing about these suits was only discovered once the workers had entered the toxin to find the source. Because while they were down there, they came into contact with a powdery residue left behind by the toxin, which both corroded the suit's metal, meaning the suit could no longer be removed, even with someone else's help, but it also allowed the toxin to enter the suit, meaning the wearer was now trapped inside, struggling to breathe, their entire body burning, all the while the respirator muffled their screams. After the workers escaped to the surface, they realized they were unable to get medical attention. So, without any other option, the workers used a surplus steak knife, a cosmic blade forged from space-age alloy said to never chip or dull, to cut their suits open. And while the clinic staff were disgruntled with the loss of several safety suits, the workers couldn't care less, with one of them documenting the experience, saying he couldn't wait for the job to be over so they could leave and let the villa collapse on itself. But as we know, the workers never did leave this place. Shortly after the villa was finished and the casino opened, the Great War stranded the workers at the Sierra Madre, and while those inside the casino received a quick death at the hands of the holograms, the workers were stuck outside, and perhaps hoping the suits would protect them from the incoming radiation, they put them back on. Then, the unspeakable happened. The toxin, which until now had been trapped below ground, growing in size, finally escaped through the ventilation system, which at long last had given up the ghost. So, the workers and the Sierra Madre were covered in a blood-red cloud that even the sun didn't dare pierce. But inside that cloud, things were slowly changing. Over the course of 2 centuries, the cloud's decaying touch has twisted the workers into abominations, known to locals as ghost people, creatures that mirror the cloud. From a distance, they may appear to be human, but a closer look reveals them to be something more sinister, a mockery of what they once were. Now deformed, drifting through the villa, expelling gas with each breath. Beneath their ancient suits is yellowed flesh that, thanks to Dog, we know tastes similar to the cloud, that is, plastic and copper. The main effect of the mutation is that the ghost people are very difficult to kill, and that could be due to the suits themselves. Although bullets and blades do inflict damage, the wounds that would usually kill a normal person is only ever enough to knock them down. Shortly after, they'll start to twitch, make this awful hissing sound akin to a gas leak, and then drag themselves back up to continue fighting. It's almost as if the cloud is keeping them alive, similar to how ghouls are healed by radiation, and it must be the cloud's restorative powers that have allowed them to continue living all this time without the need to eat, drink, or sleep. Fortunately, there is a way to stop them. However, the only reliable method of killing them is to dismember, disintegrate, or devour them. They are unlike any other creature in Fallout. Their movements are clumsy and unpredictable. Weighed down by their suits, they stumble like drunkards before lunging with their weapons. And it's this use of weaponry that shows they have maintained some level of intelligence. While they don't use firearms, they make use of improvised spears, bear trap gauntlets, and explosives crafted by strapping sensor modules to fire extinguishers. And their intelligence doesn't end there, because ghost people, for what they are amazingly sneaky. They love to bait their victims with useful items, to lure them in among their traps, and then attack from the shadows. And where there's one, there's more, with the majority of them haunting the underground service networks, only emerging to investigate a loud noise like fireworks, music, a ringing bell, or the detonation of a bomb collar. And they attack everything. Humans, ghouls, super mutants, it doesn't matter. And if given the chance, they will drag whoever they can off into the cloud. We don't know what happens to them after that. Perhaps they feed their captives to the cloud, or force them inside spare suits to increase their numbers. We just don't know. But we do know is there is something the ghost people refuse to attack: the holograms. For example, the holographic greeter kept the ghost people from entering the police station after God turned on the alarm to drown out Father Elijah. And speaking of God, he describes their interaction with the holograms as a sort of ghost worship, a strange fascination we don't fully understand, but I think it has something to do with familiarity. Having spent many years with the holograms, they no longer feel threatened by them, but they also don't fully know what they are, which is why they keep their distance. And this familiarity also extends to certain humans. Christine Royce, if left alive, explains in her ending that over time, the ghost people came to see her as one of the holograms. The ghost people would just watch, silently, as she walked among them. So given enough time, the ghost people may warm to your presence depending on how violent you are towards them. And it's here they remain, unable to leave, living in the cloud which sustains them. To what end, we may never know. I only hope the humans they once were don't remember their former lives and the torment they are now forced to endure. Be sure to show your support by liking the video and subscribing if you haven't already for more Fallout content. If there's anything you'd like to see in a later video, leave a comment and I'll see what I can do. With that said, thank you, as always, for watching, and I'll see you in the next adventure.